Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited you're here. It is the 9th of March. 1 week from today, my son will be getting married. Just letting you know. And I'm so excited that all of you have joined us today. It's a good day in the neighborhood. Everybody is happy, and everybody has joined us who really wants to know a little bit more about what PayrollCentric does. Part of payroll, one of the most important things, is knowing what to do with information that has to be acted upon. One of those items is garnishments. So Charles is going to be talking about that today. Stay tuned to the end of our webinar because I've got some really good news of what's coming up next. Looking forward to that. So with that, Charles, it's your turn. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Sandra. So yes, we're going to be talking about garnishments today, and I have some new resources here to go ahead and look at to see, since the last time we had talked about garnishments, in order to go into it a little bit further and to help with the understanding of how they work. What you will usually receive, you'll receive an order. This is going to be coming from a court, from a state agency, or from a sheriff's office, saying that your employee needs to have this much withheld in order to fulfill a legal obligation that they have. And so these are things like from the Franchise Tax Board, from sheriff's offices, from the various child support agencies, and even from the IRS. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on one place that you can go. There is this. In doing the research for this, I found on the State of California Franchise Tax Board website, they have wage garnishments, and they talk about your responsibilities. They even talk about the different types, vehicle registration debt, court ordered debt. There's also one specifically for taxes. Let me scroll up. Yes, for earning withholding orders. Those are all from the Franchise Tax Board, and it goes into depth about, what you need to do. It will even have, I believe, down here, a withholding calculator. You're not going to need that for us, but you'll probably need that in order to fill out the form when you receive it. Because when you receive it, there is a section you have to return to the agency. And so it has all this information in here, different links for everything. And then what you will receive is an order in this page. I zoomed in on this page specifically to talk about the calculation method, because it used to be with these orders from the sheriff's office and from the Franchise Tax Board, where they would say that you have to do one of three tiers. It's 25% of disposable wages, or if they made enough. If they made less than that, it would be some multiple of the federal minimum wage for the number of number of hours worked, or something like that. But because the federal minimum wage is now not in step with a lot of the states, in California, it now says, and I've highlighted it, applicable minimum wage. And so we have set up specific calculation methods, scripts in our system to account for the state minimum wage in California, which is $15.50 an hour. The federal is, I think, still at $7.25, almost just a slightly more than half, right? So that would cause an issue when doing the calculation, because obviously the minimum wages is different, and the state is going to be higher. So it affects the calculation in terms of what is available to be withheld from the employee. I have actually seen it in operation. So we have these steps in here that are kind of complicated to figure out. It's almost like trying to figure out certain, tax documents, how to fill that out. We happen to have, and I'll show them to you as we're going through how to set up these garnishments, the calculation code, which is what we use. It's got this script, this coding in the back end that will do the correct calculation. The other thing that you get is child support orders from the child support services, and they have employer frequently asked questions. There is this site for them. How did I find these? I simply Googled California child support orders, and it brought this up. Or for the wages, I put, Franchise Tax Board, and all that, and it just brought it up. So this is, the a page, a resource for you as an employer. A lot of these state agencies, a lot of these government agencies do have portals specifically for the employers. The EDD has one. The California Department of Industrial Relations, which is our version of the Department of Labor. All of them have areas where valuable resources that you can use when you have questions about these things. And since it's coming from the agency, it's the final word. It's like not not talking to your friends like, oh well, I had one and this is what I did. This is the ultimate resource, the agency itself. And for those orders, I brought this up to look at them, and I didn't find a PDF of this, but I did find this page itself that kind of gives you what it's looking for. So when you get something like this, this is from the child support for that particular state. Most of them have their own disbursement units that are from the state, not necessarily the county agency itself. California, it's the California State Disbursement Unit for all child support orders in the state. Other states are the same way. And you can get either the original, an amended, or even a termination. And it will give you instructions. So in this instance, and this unfortunately is the closest I can get it to Zoom, is it will tell you the amounts to withhold on a pay period basis. And it will also have a remittance number in it, and that's listed up here at the top. Okay, and this would be the number that you include when you're entering the order itself, so that when the money is withheld and the check is sent to the agency knows what this money is for, which order it's for, so they'd be able to look it up. And again, so these are the forms that you would receive, and this is the different sections you'd look for. As you look for the remittance number, you look at the information on how much to withhold. These would also have that, and I'm going to zoom out so you can see. They would have information in here that you would have complete. This is an example of the levying officer one that comes from the sheriff's department, and so the levying officer file number would be the remittance number, the reference ID, and it will have instructions here on how to withhold. But on the first page, and I'm sorry for going back, it would also tell you how much the total is. So it will be some sort of order from the court saying so and so owes $2,000, $20 comes out every pay period or whatever percentage, and it would just list the total amount due. You also want to keep track of these because sometimes there are interest fees involved for however long that garnishment is active. And so this is all good and well. These are the forms, and you would forward these to us so we can make sure that we set up the agency on our side, and I'll get to that in just a second as to why that's important. And when you send these have front and back. They always double-sided. So you want to send us each page. You want to make sure that you send that out to us. And then we can send this to you and actually talk with you one-on-one if you have a question on how to set that up. That being said, we'll go ahead and go back to Dash. And by the way, I feel like I'm going a little bit quick here, so if you do want me to slow down or go over something real quick, we can address that at the end, and I'm going to slow down a little just to make sure we go through this. So I'm going to show you at the company level what we do in terms of the agency, if I can find it here. So demographics, calendar, earnings deductions, agencies. This is where we set up what we call an agency. In this case, it's the garnishment department, right? Either the state disbursement unit or the franchise tax board or what have you. We take the information from the order where it tells us who to make out the payment to. So in this case, let's say Child Support Services, Sacramento, and we would put in the address and all that information. We'd also tell it what should be listed on the check, and we also mark it, say, for current process only, so that it only works on stuff from the time that it's entered going forward, right? It's not going to go back and look at anybody's previous checks and try and pay that out. So it's only going to look at the current processes. And this is the part we set up. You would not have access to this. The only reason you're seeing it right now is you're seeing it from my level of access, but I did want to mention this part. So when you send the information in, we make sure we have that agency listed in here. And then from there, we go to the employee. So you received an order for Johnny Appleseed, right? And we click on him and we go into payroll data and we go to deductions. Okay. And so we're going to add that to him right here. I'm going to click on add and we're going to select the code as soon as it comes up. And let's say it's just a regular garnishment. It's coming from the Franchise Tax Board. And we're just going to continue. And then what we do is we select the calculation code. Now, we have minimum 15, right? What does that mean? It says minimum 15, but it's actually 1550. We've set this up to where it follows the California garnishment guidelines. Okay, so this one is for weekly. We also have semi-monthly and bi-weekly. So we set these up and it's going to, we select that calculation code and it will do the math for you. It will look at what the minimum wage is for the state. It will, calculate based on what the employee gets in disposable wages. And I've mentioned that before. What are disposable wages? The basics of it, it's gross minus tax. And what that means is that for these garnishments, for child supports and for regular garnishments, the only part that's subject to it is the pay after tax. Now, what does that mean? That means that for their medical, their dental, their 401k, that's if you remember that those have tax implications and that they can lower your taxable wages, but they don't lower your disposable wages necessarily. For child support orders, if they're asking for the employee to pay medical expenses, that can come into play. Okay. But 401k does not. The money that you send to 401k while it's income tax deferred, it's still subject to the garnishment. Okay. And for this one, you don't have to enter 25 in here for the percentage because that is set up on the calculation code to automatically be no more than 25%. Okay. And then of course you can put in the goal, right? Say $2,000, right? And then what will happen is it will keep track of what's paid under paid. So every payroll you do, this amount will increase. And then when it reaches the goal, it stops. You don't have to worry about stopping it. It will do it by itself. And then over here under agency, this is where you select the agency, right? Say the Franchise Tax Board. And this is where you enter the remittance number. Now for ones that are tax related garnishments from the Franchise Tax Board, that will be their social security number, and you put it in without the dashes. But for others that come from the Franchise Tax Board, like the court ordered debt collections or the vehicle registration, those come with their own remittance IDs. And an example of that would be this. That's court ordered debt collections. Okay, how do I know this? I've been doing them for almost 20 years. So I've come across them a lot. And that is how you would set up the garnishment for say something from the Franchise Tax Board, and straight like this. Now, what do you do for a child support? Well, you would obviously select, well, I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to do this child support one. Child support. And continue. And then what we would do is we would look at the order and enter whatever the amount is for the pay frequency, right? So you would make sure that you have the pay frequency in hand. You should already know it's biweekly, semi-monthly, so forth. And then for the calc code, you would select the one. Now we don't have it here, but we do set up one called child support, okay? Now, you will probably see two. You'll see either a regular child support or a child support for multiple orders. Why is that? Because when you have somebody that has more than one child support order, then you have to kind of make them work together. And we have a specific script for when that happens. And so you would select that one. You don't need to put anything in the goal because what the child support order is a certain dollar amount a month until the child turns 18, right? And then you would receive a notice to discontinue and so forth. But the agency, you still do the same, where you would just select the child support one and enter the remittance ID, and that would be it. And then after that, there wouldn't be normally much maintenance, except when on some of them, like I said, you have interest, and it's not possible to really calculate that from the beginning because it depends upon how long the order has been in place. And so that's usually when it gets close to being paid off, you'll want to contact the agency, say how much is currently still owed, and you can adjust it by adjusting the goal and just letting it work that way. Now, another thing that happens is some of these orders will tell you that you can place a fee on the employee for the cost of the order, right? Like $1.25 or something like that. That will be in the fine print of the order itself. That is a optional choice for you. You're not required to have that fee. That fee is basically your money. It doesn't go to the agency. It comes back to you for part of the cost incurred in preparing the checks for the agencies. Also, when you use this agency right here, we prepare the check for you, and it is sent to you in the payroll package, and you just send it off to the agency. You don't have to do the math. You don't have to write the check. It just comes in the packet, and you shoot it on over. And that's it, unless there's any questions. And I know there's a lot of questions that come up over time in terms of these orders. So anything you have go ahead and ask.
Okay, I don't have any questions just yet, but I do want to emphasize whenever you get a garnishment notice, that is not something you can put off until tomorrow. There are some worst case scenarios where perhaps a child support order didn't get addressed promptly and the check didn't get mailed to the agency promptly, and they don't mess around. They go get the person who owes the money, and they do get in legal trouble and sometimes even put in jail. So it's really important that you pay attention to your mail and you pay attention to these orders and get them to us as quickly as possible. It is okay when you send us a ticket with a scanned order that you put in the subject line, in addition to your account number, child support order or action required or something that will flag it to us. Out of the many hundreds of tickets we get every day, we want to make sure that we address those promptly as well, because we have a vested interest too in making sure that those checks get to you. In some cases, we can mail the check directly to the agency requesting the garnishment. Charles, do you want to address that?
Yes, that's going to be in certain situations. This is something that you would notify us about. And in that case, what we would do is we would just put in notes in here that it's been requested to send this directly to the agency. The thing about that is that if you don't receive it in your payroll package, then you can't sit there and go, okay, I've got this, I've confirmed it, and I'm sending it forward, and this is the day I'm sending it. And because these usually go regular mail, there's really not a means to track them. So what some of our clients are more comfortable with is at least knowing that they received the check and then they can send it off themselves. It's that kind of comfort in knowing that they handled it personally. So there is that. But yes, if that is something that you need in certain situations, you can't avoid it. There's a time factor involved. Then yes, you can request that we forward those agency checks along on your behalf. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is with these garnishments, these are coming from state agencies and the courts and the sheriff's office. These are legal obligations, not just of the employee, but the employer. And so this is something that you do need to respond to because they will ask you about it, and they will be persistent. And some of these if you get them and if you have a question about it, you do want to forward it to us, because there are some states agencies that will outsource this to an attorney. I've seen some of those come from like places like Tennessee or Missouri, where it's an attorney's office sending you this, but they are actually acting on behalf of whatever state agency or court has this order. Okay. And all of these do have a legal obligation on the employer to fulfill them. So, and you may get some of these for people who are no longer working for you. You do need to respond and let them know this person hasn't worked here, that kind of thing. And if you have questions, we can, of course, answer. Now, we can't provide legal advice, but we can tell you this is what this reads, just from the experience of having gone through them before. So like I've been mentioning, this is what it's saying to pay every pay period, or looking at the interest rate, things like that, and the actual processing of it. But if you have any kind of legal question, you do want to contact your attorney and say, how do I handle this legally? So.
Perfect. Thank you, Charles. Well, I don't see any more questions, so let's move on to what's to come. We are going to be addressing next week administering state and municipal leaves in DASH. So if you've ever had a question about leave of absences, Charles is going to be assisting you with that. I won't be here, but Charles will. He's going to fly solo next week. On the 23rd, I am so excited to tell you that we have confirmed our guest presenter, Amanda Leftman, who is the managing partner at Bourne, Osher, and Leftman. They are an HR attorney group specializing in labor law. So she's going to be discussing arbitration agreements and separation agreements. Those are pretty common, she said. Lots of things are happening in that world. So she's going to give a really good update. So when you see that invitation come through for the 23rd of March, you might want to forward that to the owner of your company, because that is where the onus will lie at the end of the day. So you might want to make sure that they are informed. Of course, we always record our presentations. And if you will subscribe to our YouTube channel, PayrollCentric Presentations, the link for that is in your meeting invitation that you get every week. That will help you get notifications when we do upload a new video. Like usually, I get my videos up by Tuesday or Wednesday of the following week, and we add them to the many, many videos that we have. I was taking a look at some of them from way, way long ago when, Megan Johnson started for the COVID updates, and then we morphed into Dash, and also we have guest speakers to keep it interesting. So we appreciate you. We appreciate the fact that you are joining us every week. We love our loyal attendees. Thank you so much. These are your webinars. If you have suggestions, like Charla had one, I'm going to act on that. If you have suggestions on what you would like to hear, please send me an email. My email address is in the chat. We want to make these interesting to you and to people on the staff that would be affected by the information we give you. Giving you Dash in bite-sized pieces, because it's such a big, wonderful program, is probably the best that we can do, but there's way more. The world is your oyster, and we want to give you what you want. So thank you for joining us. We wish you all a wonderful day. Thank you for being part of PayrollCentric's family. Bye-bye for now.